Plenty to talk about on today's show, but really quickly, make sure to lock yourself in for the best Falcons news and rumors YouTube coverage out there. When you subscribe to the channel, we're closing in on 17,500 subscribers. So help us reach that milestone based off today's show. We are talking Bill Belichick to Atlanta on today's show after the Falcons fired Arthur Smith at 12:02 in the morning because Arthur Blank thought Black Monday, we got to be the first one to it. So let's wake everyone up and let's make a bombshell announcement. So Arthur Smith is out, and now we're looking to see who's going to be the next Falcons head coach, and it might be Belichick because Dianna Russini from The Athletic tweeted out, Bill Belichick is still the head coach in New England, but the Atlanta Falcons are a team to watch if Belichick is available. They are interested per sources. Now, Belichick spoke to the media, his least favorite thing in the world, and he did share some insight as to whether or not he's going to be in New England past today or tomorrow. Jonathan Jones from CBS said, Belichick says, I'm under contract. I'll do what I always do. As far as any decision for next year, it's way too early for that. My initial reaction to what Bill Belichick said was, Belichick wants to stay in New England. I don't think he wants to get fired. Now, maybe we see a trade go down. Sean Payton got traded to the Broncos last offseason, but I'm sensing a New England change, Mike Vrabel to New England from Tennessee, and Belichick gets released. So in that scenario, well, we might see Belichick come down to Atlanta because I don't know many other teams out there that are going to be very interested in Belichick, which sounds crazy to say out loud, but my first reaction to the Falcons being interested in Belichick was, this screams Hail Mary from Arthur Blank, right? He is 81 years old. He wants to win a Super Bowl while he is still alive. And what better coach to do that than a guy who's won 6 as a head coach like Bill Belichick? So I can't necessarily fault Arthur Blank for thinking Belichick is the guy to go to if you're trying to win a Super Bowl in the next few years or so, because he probably, I don't say probably, but from the lens of what he's done in the past gives you maybe the best path for that because it's Bill freaking Belichick, the greatest head coach of all time. But there is something to be said about what he has done since Tom Brady left. And that's a 29 and 37, I think 38 after losing to the Jets record. So my big question when it comes to Belichick is, do you trust Bill Belichick to pick a quarterback? Because the Falcons are looking for a new franchise QB. It's not Desmond Ridder. It's definitely not Taylor Heineke. And you've got a top 10 selection. So you've got some ammunition to go out and get the QB of the future with the 8th overall pick. And I don't know if Bill Belichick is the man you want making that selection. Because sure, he did a great job with Tom Brady. There's no doubt about it. But look at the other starting QBs he had. Mac Jones goes super well. That was a first-round pick he made, and it's not looking great. Bailey Zappi was no first-rounder, so I'm not going to judge him too harshly on that one. Brian Hoyer was a journeyman quarterback, but he went out and got Cam Newton to be a starting QB in 2020. That went maybe a little bit better than people think looking back at it, but still didn't go super well. Jacoby Brissett, Jimmy Garoppolo was a first-rounder, and I'm not quite sure how you evaluate Jimmy Garoppolo's success so far. I mean, a lot of good, but also a lot of bad. All in all, there are some good quarterbacks there aside from, Tom Brady, but there are some big misses like Mac Jones and Cam Newton, who Belichick hand-selected to be his starting quarterback, and it ultimately flopped and failed. And so if you're Atlanta, after looking at his last 2 big QB selections in Cam Newton in free agency and Mac Jones with a first-round pick, do you trust Bill to make the 8th overall selection for the Atlanta Falcons QB for the next decade plus? That's a big question for Arthur Blank to answer. And if the answer is no, then I don't think you go after Bill Belichick. So I'm not interested in Bill Belichick as the Falcons head coach. I think he did a lot of great things in New England, and that's Captain Obvious speaking here, but it's not 2015 anymore. Like Bill Belichick the last couple of years has shown us that without Tom Brady, he's got some kryptonite, and that is the rest of the NFL. So I'm probably passing on Bill Belichick, but let me know if you're interested in Belichick, yes or no. Now, next on today's show, we're going to look at some more head coaching candidates for the Falcons. We'll talk about Jim Harbaugh. We'll look at some other names to keep an eye on. But first, a quick shout out to our sponsor today, which is PrizePicks. Thanks to PrizePicks, I had an absolute blast watching football this entire fall. selecting 2 to 6 players, choosing more or less on their projected stats. And if I go 3 for 3, 4 for 4, 5 for 5, 6 for 6, I could win up to 25 times my money. Now, unfortunately, the Falcons are not in the playoffs, but if you want to stay extra locked in on Super Wildcard Weekend, how about my selections for this weekend slate of games? I like the more on Joe Flacco for the Browns against the Houston Texans. He torched them just 3 weeks ago. I like the less on Patrick Mahomes for the Chiefs. That's a big number for a quarterback that, sure, it's Patrick Mahomes, but he has struggled with bad wide receivers the last couple of weeks. I like the more on Mike Evans against the Eagles. Their defense has been cooked. And then I like the less on Najee Harris for the Steelers because he sucks. So that's pretty simple. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and make sure to use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. I want to start by talking about previous head coaches, guys with experience, because the Falcons are moving on from Arthur Smith. At one point, he was the OC in Tennessee with no head coaching experience. And so more often than not, when you see a team fire a coach, they go a different direction with the next coach, right? If they fired a first-time head coach who was a DC, then maybe the next coach is an offensive guy, and vice versa, kind of like we saw from Dan Quinn to Arthur Smith. So if we're looking at guys with previous head coaching experience, I mean, the hottest names right now on the offensive side of the board have none. Ben Johnson, 2 years as the Lions OC. I don't think Brian Johnson in Philly is getting a whole lot of love right now. Frank Smith for the Dolphins is one of my top candidates. Bobby Slowik is just a first-year OC in Houston. Brian Callahan's got a lot of experience in Cincinnati. Eric Bieniemy's a name to watch for. I'm not very high on Bieniemy, but I know the Falcons have done their research on him in the past. Now, on the defensive side of things, there's not a lot of options. Like Dan Quinn's not coming back. Raheem Morris is not coming back. Lou Anarumo has no head coaching experience. Mike Macdonald is a young, up-and-coming DC. I don't think he gets a job this year, but maybe in the future. Ejiro Evero is a very popular guy in Carolina. Brian Flores does have some head coaching experience, so that could be someone that they kick the tires on. But what about a man that's not in the NFL right now? What about the Michigan Wolverines head coach who's a little bit busy tonight, Jim Harbaugh, who has been rumored to be interested in returning to the NFL pretty much every single offseason for the last 5 offseasons. I think it's Jim Harbaugh's goal to end his coaching career in the NFL hosting the Lombardi Trophy. That's his Mount Everest. Now, he's not going to go back to the NFL until it's a perfect scenario, right? He's not dying to leave Michigan, where he's got a good thing going. He's playing in the Natty until he feels like it is a perfect fit for him to return to the NFL, get personnel decisions, which I could see the Falcons offering. If they're interested in Bill Belichick, then they are definitely willing to tango when it comes to getting a head coach who wants to pick his own players. Now, if I'm Arthur Blank and I'm the Atlanta Falcons and I'm making a pitch to Jim Harbaugh to come to the NFL and specifically coach the Atlanta Falcons, I've got 5 things that come to mind. Number 1, Jim Harbaugh is not tied to any QB. He's not taking over a Falcons roster where they say, hey, we've already paid this quarterback. We've already drafted this quarterback. This is your guy. No, Jim Harbaugh starts with a blank canvas when finding a quarterback. Number 2, he's got the 8th overall pick in the draft. That's not pretty bad. I mean, there are definitely better spots you could be. Like, well, the Panthers don't even have their first-round pick, but the Chargers got an early pick, but you're tied to Justin Herbert, and that's not a bad thing by any means. But still, the Falcons have a blank slate at QB and a top 10 selection. That's attractive right there. They've got plenty of cap space in 2024, $34.1 million. So if there's a free agent out there, I don't know, like say T. Higgins or someone Harbaugh thinks is going to be instrumental in the Falcons' turnaround, he could go out and sign that guy. It's also an easy division. You're joining the NFC South. The best quarterback right now is probably Derek Carr. And I don't think Derek Carr is anywhere near a top 10 QB. He's probably not even a top 12, top 13, top 14. Maybe Baker's even better than Derek Carr. So it is a division that has no perennial powerhouse, no Patrick Mahomes, no Josh Allen, no guy that has won the division year after year after year. So you are looking at home playoff games by taking down Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield. That seems pretty appetizing if I'm Jim Harbaugh. And finally, Arthur Blank may not be a perfect owner, But he is one thing, and that is committed to winning, because he is not just trying to make revenue and ticket sales and sell hot dogs for $10. No, he sells hot dogs for $1 because he wants to win, right? He is not out here just to get an extra buck. So you have an owner that is going to be behind you and support you and finance whatever you need to do to be successful. Not every single NFL head coach or GM can say that about their owner. So let me know, to wrap up the video, who you want to be the Falcons' next head coach. Who is your dream target, right? If I'm the Falcons, the dream guy has got to be Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh did fantastic things in San Francisco with the 49ers. NFC Championship game, Super Bowl, NFC Championship game, 4 short years in San Francisco, and very successful seasons. He has been very close to winning a Super Bowl, losing to the Ravens in 2012. He should be everyone's number one guy if he is available. And if he beats Washington tonight, he reaches the Mount Everest of college football, and he might feel like he is ready to return to the NFL once he brings Michigan a national championship. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe. We're going to have plenty of updates over the next coming weeks as the Atlanta Falcons are searching for their next head coach. So don't miss a thing when you are subscribed. And if you're already subscribed, turn on your notifications. That way, when a video goes out, you are the first to see it.